episode of JournaTime by Adamas University. Like, Hello, I am Debomita Dey, your host for today's episode of JournaTime by Adamas University. I wholeheartedly welcome you all. We are here to discuss about some points. Like in India, we can see that education is influenced by several political agendas. Is it good or bad for our education system? The politicization of education is the manipulation of education for political gain. Academic actions and relevance of the educational institutions have been relegated to the background, and those forums have been degenerated into arenas of political tussle. So, to discuss this important issue, I have my colleagues from Adamas University Journalism Department, Nilam Dash and Sheetal Prashad. We will try to find answers of pertinent questions related to this issue. So I would like to start with Neelam. So I would like to pose my first question to Neelam is what is your point of view about politicization in India in general?
Well, Debomita, politicization means give a political touch to any phenomena. See, in India, one of us surprised to know that politics is everywhere, whether it's society, education, caste, or religion, like in everything. So it is said that religion should keep separate from politics, but whenever election comes, we see that religion always get involved in politics. We have seen it from time to time, from 1969 Gujarat riot to 1984 anti-Sikh riot, from 1989 Kashmir violence to 2013 Muzaffarnagar violence. See, politics was involved every single time, and same with the caste with the education system. See, nowadays education system is become a popular way to promote political and ideological agenda. Moreover, you will feel surprised to know that the most of the political leaders are sitting in the parliament have criminal records. So tell me how they are going to do any good to us. Criminals in politics bring gunda raj, anachari, chaos. See, we need politicians who have a clean record and more importantly educated, because no one better to understand the importance of education than a person who is educated, right?
Yes, yes, very well said, Neelam. We, the citizens of India, always want a better version of our country and also better education for the students, who are the future for our country. So now I would like to come to Sheetal. My second question is for Sheetal. How does politics influence education system? Sheetal, can you like to shed some light on this particular aspect?
Thank you, Debomita. I believe that there are both positive and negatives of politics in education. If politics is used as a tool to address the challenges of education sector through the youth's voice, then it is very much healthy. But we can see some bad trends of using politics negatively in every other domain. So it is applicable to education too. I believe that political approach in education is primary need of us, and we all need to contribute from our side to utilize politics positively in education.
Okay. Thank you, Sheetal. Politics does has its own advantage of shortcomings and all. So you're saying that with academic positive participations in politics will give positive output. You're saying
Yes,
this.
indeed. Yes, indeed. Student politics is an essential and a desirable part of university life. And student activism can bring about concrete changes in our lives, whether it is political, environmental, economic, as well as social. Young people make a huge proportion of the voting population, so it is important that they have sufficient knowledge about political issues. So politics makes a student aware of their rights and the proper usage of their rights. Well, young people have very less understanding of government or democratic processes. So participation in politics enlightens them about these aspects.
So thank you, Sheetal. Politics does has its own advantage and disadvantages. It's also we have seen that are advantages also. So we just have to choose what to contribute for country's education. And moving forward, my next question is for again Neelam. Neelam, please enlighten us in democratic country how politics affects the education.
See, although education system is expected to be free from politics, it many times we see the education policy followed by government might be influenced by politics. The politicization of education started when it's being to used for political gain. See, politics to taste to cultural program are common example we all know. Because of political interference over the recruitment of teacher in education institutions, sometimes the right candidate get ignored and may get compromised. The government ideally should not intrude into certain areas. See, we have seen the cases of government involvement, the appointment of Gajendra Chauhan, a television actor, a chairperson FI, FTII. See, in 2015, where student Eliza, it was a balanced attempt to saffronize the institution. So there are so many cases where political appointment is made in education institution. Political relays, programs inside school university campuses is turning the education institution into an advertising center for political gain. And not just this, that during first few decades that we have seen so many cases of student suicide happening due to politics.
Like, wait a minute. So you're saying that politics is affecting students' life? Like, is it provoking
Yes.
student suicide case?
Yes, definitely. See, in Hyderabad Central University, a Dalit PhD candidate, Rohit Vemula, committed suicide on 18 December 2015. So, Rohit had exceptionally lead a political life on campus with relentless fights against caste discrimination. At the time, Rohit was struggling because of his scholarship was withheld and he was suspended from college. See, although in his letter he didn't hold anyone responsible or for anyone for his act, but it's no brainer as to who was responsible for his death. And we have also seen Smriti Irani how reacted on this incident. The incident brought the core conversation around the caste, politics, and education. So the caste-based discrimination is nothing new in India, we all know, and this is utilized by political parties to gain political milega. And it is very common to hear in news that the fight breaking between youth wings and political parties due to ideological difference, which ultimately convert universities such as JNU, DU, BHU, and AMU and few other into war zones. So if you visit university like BHU and JNU, you will see the rapid action force and police station outside the gate is common sight. And this is because very politically motivated conflict turn into the ugly war where violence erupt and sometimes even the riot situation rise. See, we have seen in 2016 now how in Delhi JNU a small protest took a political twist which deemed as an anti-national protest and students were arrested on the allegation of anti-national activities. All these incidents terribly damage the quality of the education system in India.
Yes. So, very well said, and it's a very true incident also. Like, indeed, our educational institutes really need more focus towards the quality of the education, except politics also. So moving forward, I'm coming to Sheetal again. Like, education system is undoubtedly the foundation of a nation, like as it makes man civilized and therefore the country. So, but the Indian education system is suffering with many issues due to politicization of education. Like, in this context, Sheetal, can you highlight some of the bigger problems or challenges faced by the Indian education system?
See, Debomita, one of the biggest problem that is faced by Indian education system is political corruption. Before throwing light on the major issues, let's first know what is political corruption. Well, political corruption is the use of power by the government officials for illegitimate private gain. Since decades, it has very much crept into our education system. It begins with the big promises and pledges made by the government, such as increased investment in education. However, we know that the spending on education barely increases. Secondly, the education system, it is overlooked as another industry where money flows uninterrupted in the hands of corrupt businessmen or politicians. We know that one of the major hindrances under political corruption in education is the donation criteria too. It is different for different types of schools and colleges for acquiring admission or getting the desired examination results. Also, in the education sector, corruption affects the policy making and planning, school management and procurement, as well as teacher conduct. In other words, education system has been wrecked badly by political influence, which includes cheating and other academic violations. If I have to name a few, there is bribery, nepotism, teacher absenteeism, unpaid labor, favoritism in school admission, teacher appointment, licensing of education facility, and also the producing inferior quality textbook and school supplies. And no wonder we see videos of teacher unable to pronounce even a word and having no clue on the subject, or student toppers mispronouncing their subject, which is going viral and they are getting trolled for this. And this is exactly what happens when you pay money to get the first rank or give bribe to get a government job.
Yes, Sheetal, like not just the academician or the students, like sometimes even the context or text is somewhat regressive and has political overtone. Like sexism and misogynistic text is a very big problem by Educational Institute of India, like which we are always face this kind of problem. So can you elaborate more on this thing?
See, Devomita, sexism is gender based prejudice or discrimination, and it can affect anyone. It can be a belief that one sex is superior to another or more valuable. On the other hand, misogyny can be defined as deep hatred in the heart harbored by men towards girls and women. It can be better understood as a moral manifestation of sexist ideology. Both boys and girls are harmed by them since it is highly prevalent in the educational institutions, mainly in the form of sexual harassment, sexist language, gender stereotyping, slut shaming, etc. There are a few recent examples on this. For instance, there was this news recently about class 10 English question paper of the CBSE board, where a comprehension passage spoke of emancipation of the wife, destroying parents' authority over children, and how a wife's authority depended on the formal obedience she gave to the husband. Isn't this disgusting? This passage sparked a huge controversy and widespread outrage for allegedly promoting misogyny, gender stereotyping, supporting regressive notions, which prompted the board to drop the question. We have another example where excerpts from a class 12 physical education textbook defines 32, 26, and 36 as the best body shapes for women. This book was written by Dr. V.K. Sharma, and it was titled as Health and Physical Education. And similarly, a class 12 sociology book cited ugliness and physical disability of a girl as the reasons behind dowry issue prevalent in the country. Not only these are disgusting to hear, but it is taught in various educational institutions to the students. This will have a very bad impact on them. Uh, though actions have been taken against it, but it still leaves a big question mark on the quality of education that the Indians get.
Yes. So moving forward toward the end, like as we know about the influence of political perspective in education. So Neelam, may I ask you this question specifically? Like, why political perspective is needed in education? Like, in your perspective, is it worthy or not? Like, we need this or we don't have any option? Like, it's just okay if we don't have political perspective in education.
Well, since independence, our education system has gone through a number of significant changes, and some of which, accordingly to my opinion, were necessary and some are not. So, as we obtain independence, it is necessary to make some changes from the colonial education system to fit our political and economic orientation. So, in modern times, education and politics cannot be separate, and they have a relationship between them because analyzing the influence of politics on education, it's need to be understand what politics is, and it is basically about power, and everybody cannot have that power, and those who have more power, they would dominate, and it is applicable in every field, and education is no exceptional at all. It does influence on education. So for instance, every education policy decision can be seen as a political decision. Education should not be one of the instruments to create social cohesion, but it is found that under the influence of politics, some to extent it is creating even bigger socio-economic inequalities. See, political perspective of education in general terms means the influence of politics in formulation and implementing various policies of education. Broadly speaking, that politics affect education in a numerous way, and it determines what, why, where, by whom, to whom, etc. And it materializes in terms curriculum transaction, even evolution methodologies, selection of teachers, nature of teachers, involvement in modalities of certification, it and everything of education. See, in this way, education perform the subordinate role to politics, hence may sometimes become a tool for implementing political ideologies.
Hmm. So, talking about political ideologies here, so the change of history paper in Delhi University is worthy at all.
See, the first paper of history in Delhi University now covers the prehistoric times and the early historic period. But the first paper in the new syllabus in one of the idea of Bharat was include topics such as eternity of synonymous Bharat. See, religious literature like the Vedas, Vedgata, Upanishad, Smritis and Purans. And Jatindra Meena, assistant professor of history of DU, Syamlal College said that the new syllabus is glorified religious literature and dropped Asian secular literature such as Kutialla and Arthasra and the poems of Kalidasa and Ayurvedic texts of Charak Smita. I think this edition is not required at all.
So, my last question is to like Sheetal. Like since historic times, the education system is largely used to train your minds to behave accordingly to the political vision of the ruling class. Like it seems as if education system has diverted itself the motto of providing education and knowledge. So we have discussed enough on the instances and example of politics influencing education and education affecting politics. So Sheetal, please enlighten us regarding the measures that can be taken to strengthen the case for a strong education system by keeping the politics and as well as politicians out of the business of the education. Like the best thing for education.
Well, Debomita, an obvious answer to this question will be removal of any type of political interventions over education. And we know that nearly it seems impossible. Let me give you instances to understand this first. We have example of of former cricketer and two-time BJP MP Chetan Chauhan, who has been appointed as the chairman of the National Institute of Fashion Technology. We have also seen appointment of a Sanskrit professor in BHU who was a Muslim, and therefore he was politicized. Also, another example comes of Sunil Ambedkar. He was a senior RSS leader, having no degree in the research and addressed as chief guest in conference on research methodology. This was organized by the Central University of Haryana, Mahendragarh. Uh, so we see politics in education on many fronts, be it appointments made to the educational institutes, be it naming of institutes after the politicians, be it removing and adding chapters on popular personalities in textbook to suit one's ideology. Even introduction of religious texts such as Ramayan also questions the secular nature of our nation, which again can be attributed to political intervention. There have been many such examples in the past. I strongly feel that education system should be free from political dictates since it is the real solution. Now coming back to the question on measures to be taken to strengthen the case for a stronger education system, the best possible solutions according to me that should be kept in mind is that all those educational institutes set up by criminals and corrupt politicians for making money should be monitored and controlled by the government. Secondly, alternate education should be promoted. Scholarships must be provided to common people as well as the underprivileged students. Also, today we can witness a declining demand of teaching profession. So action must be taken for filling of vacancies for teacher, and the government must increase their remuneration. Apart from this, Few other initiatives must be taken, like opening schools in both rural and urban areas, formulation of reservation policies in India, equity in education, a political nature of syllabus, elimination of nepotism, preparation of budget, equity in allocation of funds, problem and resource based learning, etc. On the other hand, few things that needs to be stopped are political rallies, campaigning inside the campus, politically motivated conflicts, etc. And above all, the youth should raise their voice for developing the culture of quality and standard of education. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheetal, and thank you, Neelam, for discussing all these things and all. So there are issues that surrounded the topic of education in many different ways, like curriculum, teaching, legalities, and even philosophical, to name a few. But there is a strong importance of political issues in regards to education. The reason this specific topic is important because politics impact the world we live in. Like how we do things, the way our country is governed is directly related to politics. Like and the decisions that elected officials make. So politics in education may impact everyone involved, like teachers, students, administrations, policy holders, and even the entire public as a whole. So thank you for giving your valuable insights as well as highlighting the major contradictions and the plus point of the topic. And thank you to Nitesh sir also helping us for doing this. And well, with this, I Debomita Dey from Adamas University Journalism Department takes your leave. So see you all in the next episode of Journal Time. Thank you.